Lady is any Victorian or Edwardian that's painted with multiple colors in a way that accentuates its architectural details. It's a term that's been used really since the 60s. It's not an old term. The Victorians were much more monochrome in the way that they painted houses and used more earth tones, and the houses actually became colorful like this more in the 60s, and after that people started painting them in this way, and that they became known as the Painted Ladies. This is the Harder house, and that refers to the original owners, Emily and Louis Harder, who were German immigrants in the wholesale grocery business, and they built this house in 1899 for $5,500 for themselves and their 5 adult children who were in their 20s, who were not yet married and lived with them at that time, along with a couple of German girls who were servants of theirs and their 88-year-old grandmother, Wilhelmina, whose bedroom was supposedly upstairs in the attic in the turret, where I imagine her in her black Victorian outfit staring down at the people in Alamo Square Park. My favorite architectural detail of the house is definitely the turret, which is typical of a lot of Queen Anne architecture, and it runs 3 stories, and I love the curved glass and the view of the park, and I've spent a lot of time standing in that turret watching people in the park, especially where it ends in the attic and it's its own whimsical little room. So we pretty much kept every architectural detail that was still in the house intact. We didn't take anything out. And luckily, the original builders had used really high quality materials that had made it over 100 years, and they also had more tailored tastes. So we didn't have to contend with a lot of cupids and frillier details. However, the challenge was just how to make the house feel less formal, a little bit less prissy and fussy, which Victorians can tend to, but still honoring the architecture. And so we did that by doing things like choosing a lively wallpaper, which is a floral. It's something you can imagine in a Victorian, but it looks like it was drawn with a pencil. And we played with the brutal symmetry of this foyer by installing a really modern light fixture that also is very symmetrical and kind of plays with that feature. We also installed grass cloth on the ceilings and in some other places to just give the house a little bit more of an organic feel and a little bit more of a casual feel, though it's still wallpaper, so it does have that formal element to it. There were places in the house where architectural details had been had clearly been taken out, and something modern had been installed that was really out of place with the surrounding woodwork or whatever that was. And so in those cases, we actually did sort of more of a historical renovation where we brought in fireplace mantles, fireplace covers, things like that from other houses that were of the same era, and kind of tried to rebuild those in a way that was in keeping with the surroundings of that room. For me, the heart of the house is the kitchen and the dining room and the front family room. And we love to entertain. We had many parties in those rooms, in the formal dining room, and of course, as a family, we spent a lot of time in the kitchen and sitting room off of that. I think it's the modern impulse to just sort of knock down the walls when people come and renovate these homes and to try to create all these big open spaces. But there's something really nice about rooms that have a human scale. This is a big house, but each room has an intimate aspect to it. Secrets are told in the kitchen, which people at the dinner party in the dining room don't hear. People can feel a little bit more intimate, I think, in cozier spaces. And so, even when we moved in, it sort of seemed like, oh, it's a Victorian, it has a lot of rooms, that's what they're kind of known for. We really found actually it was a nice way to live. To sometimes close the old pocket doors and close off a room, or to just have these rooms that had walls and were a little more human. So for my kids, their favorite place is undoubtedly the attic playroom, which was this big open, rompous room at the top of the house with skylights and a view of the park, and it just felt like you're way up in the sky. And they, you know, that was actually a really fun room for our whole family, and there were many dance parties and games of hide and seek and things were played up there, and it was just a really sweet place for the kids to go wild. We were just stewards of this house. We were one little chapter in this house's history. It's 120 years old. It was around long before our family came here and made it our home. There'll be other families who will live here. Other people will pass through this house, as many already have. And we're just one little part of its history, and we feel extremely lucky to have lived here.